All right. With us we have a national champion, and he's also played in Finland and now in Greece. It's Chris Austin. Thank you for joining me, Chris. I appreciate it a lot. So, you're in Greece right now. What happened, like after the national championship? What took you as a professional volleyball player to Europe? Like, what avenues did you go through?
Well, actually, rather than leaving right away to come to Europe, I decided to start my coaching career, and I took a volunteer job at USC, and also stayed back and finished with the 18s group that I had in club. But once their break came in January, that's when I decided to make the move over to Finland. So I linked up with an agent of a friend of mine, and he found me a job pretty quickly.
Okay. So you're in Finland last year. What was it like playing there? Like as far as like your training regimens and things like that.
I mean, it was a really good first experience. It's a place that I'd recommend a lot of first year athletes to go because the league is a good level of volleyball, but it's also a situation that's going to teach you about what it's like to live overseas. That it's not going to be a perfect scenario, and there's a lot that you're going to have to learn how to cope with, whether it be the weather, the food, or just being by yourself, you know. But I met a lot of good friends, I met a lot of good contacts, and ultimately it helped me progress onto a better league the next year.
Yeah, you're in Greece now. Now it's kind of hard for me to translate all of like the spellings and things. Is it Caphisius?
Yeah, we call it Kafisia.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah,
then
with it.
and then this year there's a lot of Americans over there. I know like Cook is over there, Riley McKibben, Carson Clark. Do you keep in touch with a lot of those guys?
I saw obviously Brian. We just played him
Uh-huh.
this past week, so we chatted a little bit before the match. And Ryan Thompson from Santa Barbara
Uh-huh.
was on the team Oriestada that we played for our first match. We had a scrimmage with Carson's team last week, so I talked to him a little bit. And I'm pretty sure we play McKibben's team next week, Lamia. So yeah, all the Americans I'm gonna have pretty quick interaction with, and I talk to them here and there when we see each other for matches.
Do you keep in touch with like your Irvine teammates? I know a lot of them are seem to be over in France right now.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. When I was actually in America, I spent a lot of my training time up at UCI, and I talked a lot with Niff and the guys who are still there. And before Dan went over to tours, we talked a little bit. And I saw David Smith this summer in the gym. Saw Carson a couple times before he left. I definitely saw Connor Hughes. So yeah, we keep a pretty tight relationship.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of Sprout influence all over Europe as far as Americans playing overseas. It's really kind of neat to see. Um, and then yeah, with Niffin, it seemed like you guys kind of just kind of picked up where you left off. I won't lie, I was a big BYU guy, and you broke my heart that night in Poly, man. Your offense was just looking really smooth, and it's one of those things where had to just kind of applaud what I was seeing, but man, it was tough to go there and watch my Cougar shut down like that. I had a
Yeah, I
bud.
appreciate it.
He coaches in at Irvine at Concordia, and he was sitting across the gym from me. He said, "Yeah, it'll be quick, man. It'll be quick." And yeah, it really was. I wasn't expecting it like that. So you guys are playing Phoenix Heroes this weekend, and I think the last time you guys played them was in the League Cup. Now that was before like the league had started. Were you on the team at that point in time? Had you already been to Greece?
No, no, I actually just got here about 2 weeks ago. So my first match was Oriestada that we played 2 weeks ago. So we talked a little bit in practice today about the Siros team, and I haven't seen them. I'll be looking forward to watching some video on them this week.
Yeah, because I noticed when I was going through and just kind of trying to keep tabs on which guys are in what leagues, I did notice you for a while, and so that was I kind of felt bad that I had missed, where you were, but that makes complete sense now. So what was I going to say? How do you guys like your chances to qualify for Europe next year? I mean, do you like the way the team's coming together? I know you've only been there for a few weeks, but is it a good fit for you right now? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so far we've been successful. We had a little hiccup the first week that I was here, having to go five with Oriestada, but we won against Ike in three, and luckily we got 3 points against Panathinaikos, which is a really good volleyball team. So we'll see as the year progresses. But I always feel that the teams I'm on have a good opportunity to win the championship and qualify for cups and all that type of stuff.
Um, now, like you were with Sparrow for years. What do you work on now as a setter? Like, what do they really work with you when you're in the gym?
Well, here in Europe, it's all about location and decision making and setting the ball. When I'm on my own personal time, I like to work on everything but setting because I understand how important it is to be a good server, a good blocker, a good defender, good at reading the match and understanding when to do what. And that's a lot of stuff that I worked on with Sparrow and Niffin at Irvine. So that's kind of the touch that I like to bring here to Europe.
So, in like your experience, will they take a defensive liability if he can put the ball where it needs to be in the setter position?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of coaches have different philosophies, but for the most part in Europe, it's the number one priority everywhere. I think is always going to be setting the ball. I think you have to be able to put up a good hittable set and with some kind of consistency. But if you can add other things to the table, like if you can block a lot of balls, if you can take some balls, if you can serve aces and that type of stuff, then you're going to be even more of a weapon.
Now, I noticed like when I watch someone like Maruf from Iran or like Lucian DeCecco, a lot of times it seems like here, especially with the young guys, we teach a lot of mechanics and take the ball from the same place. And there it seems like kind of unorthodox how guys are putting up balls, but they're still getting one-on-ones and guys alone. Is there a lot of emphasis put on mechanics there, or is it basically just where your location is?
Again, I think that has a lot to do with the coaches, but I think a lot of it's about location. And those guys that you mentioned are really good setters. I like to watch them along with Bruno and even some of our own USA setters. But there's definitely something to be said about having some freestyle and being able to do some things out of the ordinary and break down your mechanics sometimes, because if you're a little too mechanical, that makes you easy to read over a long period of time. But if you can freestyle and throw in some unorthodox things, then I think it keeps people off your game for a little bit longer.
I see. All right. All right. So you got that big man. I think you guys are in fourth in the league standings right now, and Syros is fifth, I want to say.
Yeah, you're right.
And like, is your league set up to where you play everybody twice, then you'll go through like playoff series later on?
Yep.
Like the top 8. Okay. And then, so kind of looking at, like you said, like you talked earlier about getting used to playing overseas. What is the toughest part, like being over there?
Gosh, I think for a lot of people it's different, but for me, I think it's just not being outside of your comfort zone. When you're in America, you can just drive down the street whenever you want. You can go to the beach if you live in California. You can go to lunches here and there with your friends. Or here, your schedule is very regimented, where you wake up in the morning, you go to weights, you have practice in the afternoon. You need to get the right amount of sleep. You need to get the right amount of food, the right amount of exercise. So just having a regiment and not being able to freestyle as much as you'd like is probably the toughest thing. But it can get lonely for some guys. For me, I've done an okay job so far because my season last year was only 3 months, and I mean so far I've only been here for 2 weeks, so it doesn't bother me too much yet. But for a lot of people, I think it's a struggle being by themselves.
Yeah, big news out here about 2 weeks ago was with Matt Anderson leaving Zenit and coming back. And I mean, I know there too, where that's like a league where you only have one foreigner. So I think it's just he, Max, and Dave Lee over there in Russia. Do you find it nicer that being closer to more guys you know? I mean, does that make it easier?
Yeah, I think it could. I haven't spent enough time with those guys for it to make a big difference. But hearing about that Matt Anderson story and some of the other guys I know, there was a guy who left Greece, an American, a week ago. But it's a struggle for some guys. And after you've done it for so long, I think it becomes more difficult. I think when you're in it early on, it's easy to tell yourself it's manageable and I'll wait. But I think if you've done it for a long time, it starts to bite at some guys a little bit.
Is your family still in Vegas?
My mom's still in Las Vegas, and my brother and my dad lives in Texas. But for the most part, yeah.
So do you get to keep in touch with them quite a bit?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely try to keep in touch with me more than I do with them.
Yeah.
I obviously value their relationships, but I think it's important to have some of that separation and not get too used to having each other around all the time, because, I don't know, it makes things a little more special for me if there's some separation in between.
Now, does your league have a winter break or no?
I don't believe so. I think some of the guys told me that the max they got off last year was like 3 or 4 days. So
Okay.
I'm not expecting to have it.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much, man. I appreciate your time and your input, especially coming from a setter, working hard in a new league. I like to see how kind of like to get your experience too on how you kind of moved up leagues. Um, how you weren't one of those guys who were taken like right to Russia or right to Italy right away, but seeing how you're making a career for yourself, really like to see that. So I appreciate you taking the time, and I'll continue to follow your career throughout this season, especially. So thanks a lot, and have a good week and good luck this week.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your time,
All
buddy.
right, take care.